Hare Krishna, dear souls out in the world. Thank you for joining me for another session of Hare Krishna Mahamantra Music Meditation. And really, the most important thing is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra itself, because that's where, as far as I understand, personally, that's where the power comes from. You know, why you end up feeling so fulfilled in a way that, in my personal experience, every other thing that I tried couldn't. There was definitely a buzz there, as I sometimes say. Forgive me if I don't say that, if you can, but I'll understand if you can't. Forgive me, dear souls in the world. Hare Krishna, dear souls out in the world. Um, yeah. A lot of the things that I tried, or pretty much everything, in other words, dear souls in the world, that I tried, it actually led to a kind of depression, because from my personal experience, the experience happens, whatever it is, if that makes sense, to ourselves in the world. And there's a bit of an incline in my personal experience. Just say you go to a movie at a movie theatre, for example. There's a definite incline, of excitement, but then once you hit that peak, and in my personal experience there is a peak, it just goes downhill from there. And then I'm left personally, from my personal experience and memory to ourselves in the world, I ended up feeling lethargic, more disturbed actually, like I couldn't calm my mind down, I needed more stimulation and more stimulation. That was just from memory, there are cells in the world. And so with this Hare Krishna Mahamantra meditation, each time you sink into it, so to speak, dear souls in the world, the pleasure increases. So, that's one of the reasons why I find this particular meditation so attractive, because you experience more and more improvement internally every time. If it was the opposite, then I probably wouldn't be doing it myself personally. I'd hope not anyway, because, as human beings, we're not meant to be striving for that which is cheap, if that makes sense to ourselves in the world. But it can feel like a hard thing to grapple with, because when we're in those experiences, which are kind of, in my personal experience, personally, if that makes sense to ourselves in the world, it's like you're in a cycle, basically, that you can't get out of. You watch one movie, and it's not like the watching of that one movie, so to speak, it's not like that one movie satisfied your desire to watch any more movies. In my personal experience and from memory, personally, after watching one movie, I wanted to watch another movie. And so one might say, well, then it's just about regulation, just be regulated. Have an allotted amount of time where you watch movies, and then, accept that that's your allotment, and then move on with something else. Then maybe, for example, just a small example, dear souls in the world, maybe move on with cooking. And, then have another activity after that, just keep it regulated, keep it balanced. But we find that, at least in my personal experience, that was quite hard to do. Controlling all of those desires, and always feeling depressed from memory, personally, that I couldn't fulfill them in the way that I wanted. Like, I couldn't watch a million movies, I couldn't have a million sexual encounters. Just as an example, it's like we have all of this desire within us, but we can't even express it the way we want to. And I'm just generalizing here, but that's my personal experience anyway. And so this meditation actually deals with all of those desires, not in a matter of repression or forcing anything, because that never worked in my personal experience. Maybe it has for others, I don't know them, so, I can't say personally, but, as far as I'm aware and have experienced myself, this Hare Krishna Mahamantra meditation, it cleanses all of those desires away. And so one might then ask, are you then just left with nothing? You're just a nothingness, with no desires. No, you begin to desire other things that actually benefit you on a very deep level. Yeah, and really improve all aspects of yourself. And so this is really about self-improvement, you know. in a way that in my personal experience and from memory personally, um, other things just couldn't do. It provided like a band-aid almost, and then, once you're in the shower, the band-aid comes off, unless it's a, water safe, if that makes sense to ourselves in the world. Band-aid, I apologize if it doesn't to ourselves in the world. But, yeah, it's temporary. Yeah. And so is life really meant for just going from one temporary thing to another, to another, to another, and then dying? Or is it about finding a way to go deeper than all of the band-aids, so to speak? Yeah. And the more I go into this Hare Krishna Mahamudra meditation, the more I can see that as a reality and a fact. Yeah. And all I recommend to people generally is, be as kind to yourself as possible. Love yourself as much as possible throughout this whole process of meditation, especially of this Hare Krishna Mahamantra meditation. Because at the end of the day, I say, I'm pretty sure, I apologize if I don't, to ourselves in the world, but I'm pretty sure I say generally, you're the one that has to do it at the end of the day. No one can do it for you. No one is going to move your mouth and have the mantras come out, so that's why I personally like to be as kind to myself as possible, because ultimately I'm the one that I'm working with, if that makes sense to ourselves in the world. Yeah. And you find, as time goes on, the mind becomes more steady, stronger. Um, I can be honest and say that, I did this practice for a period of time, about a few years, and then I fell away from the practice due to I guess putting myself in a situation that I actually couldn't handle. So part of this process is all about being really real with yourself as to what you can handle at the level that you're at, with how strong your mind is, how steady your mind is already through the expressing of this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So, yeah, I ended up putting myself through some situations by choice, from memory, personally, and yeah, then found it very difficult to navigate those situations. And then at one point I started blaming this meditation, so it helps to do a lot of reflection and introspection, throughout this whole process. What situations are actually going to be favorable for me to do this meditation sustainably? Of course, situations will come and go in our lives that we have no control over, so we can't make these choices all of the time. But my recommendation is don't force yourself into a situation that seems not so favorable for executing a steady meditation. Yeah, and just do your best. That's also what I advise and recommend as well, and that's what I try and do every day as well. Try, you know. That's all we can do because everyone's different from what I've noticed. And so someone's best is going to be someone else's not so best. I don't think that was grammatically correct. I apologize to ourselves in the world. Um, but yeah, everyone's different in every way as far as I'm aware. And yeah, thankfully I've come back into this meditation, having done a lot of reflection, a lot of introspection, um, you know, and you'll also find that situations will teach you things anyway as to what's good for you and what's not so good for you. And yeah, um, over time, you also start to, in my personal experience, develop more and more self-respect. And that is taking those measures as far as I'm personally aware and have personal experience. Actually, I should make this decision because it's better for my own journey. which may seem selfish, but, the opposite is almost like a false selfishness, you know, giving so much on almost like the papery level, the cardboard level, um, when you haven't actually nourished yourself first. But once you actually genuinely nourish yourself through these kinds of meditations, and I personally recommend the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra meditation, then you can really give on a deep level. And that may seem a little scary, and that's okay, because for a lot of us, myself personally anyway, I'm coming from a culture that doesn't teach you anything about that. To care on a deep level, to love on a deep level that goes beyond a kiss and a hug and a smile and nice words. You know, my awareness of caring on a deep level is actually giving someone genuine realizations about who they really are, who you really are, what the world is really like, from genuine realizations, not just book knowledge, And that's there, but ultimately we want realizations. Yeah. And so whatever situation you're in, whether you're new to this meditation, whether you've come in and out and in and out, which is common, you know, and it's also common that people stick with it their entire life. Everyone's in an entirely different situation. But what I'd always recommend, hopefully, is whatever situation you're in, whether you're in any of those categories or another category, just in the best way you can, come into this meditation of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra expressing. It's what I like to call it because, as far as I'm aware, we'll always be in different circumstances where we may lose the facility to speak. So how can we speak the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra? So that's just one example there. And as far as I'm aware, it's all about the heart. So, I may have certain clothes that I wear, but almost anyone can do that. That's kind of cheap in a way. I may be living in a certain area of the world. Maybe not everyone can do that, but, again, that's like just another material facility. So you find as time goes on, all of these facilities will come and go. So what matters most is your heart, and to protect your heart by expanding your heart constantly, as much as you can. And as time goes on, from what I've seen of great saints and souls, greater saints and souls, in other words, to ourselves in the world, their ability to expand their heart becomes easier and easier, from what I'm aware of anyway. So it's almost like a muscle, dear souls and saints. No, dear souls out there in the world. Yeah, if that makes sense, dear souls in the world. It may be a little bit difficult at first, but as time goes on, it just becomes easier and easier and more natural. Yeah, like anything, in my personal experience anyway, working on your job, it's like, oh my god, I apologize if that's offensive to anyone dear souls in the world, what I just said. Yeah, they're like, oh my god, you're having to navigate everything, so to speak, dear souls in the world, and meet new people, and you might make mistakes, so it can be a bit like that in the beginning. But then from what I've seen of persons who have been going at this meditation or process for a long time, there seems to be like an ease as to how they go about it, and almost like, it's a part of them. Yeah, so we'll begin with some Hare Krishna Maha Mantra meditation. I apologize for anything I've said that's inaccurate or anything I've said that's offended anyone. Feel free to jot down, so to speak, any criticisms in the comments below. And I'll always try and do my best to do better every time. And try and put as much heart as I can into these videos. Hopefully, my ability to do that will become stronger and stronger, because the more, as far as I'm aware, the more that you do this process of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra meditation to yourselves in the world, your heart does become stronger and stronger, so it should come out, when we start to reciprocate with the outer world. For all of us, when we start to interact with people, people should be able to sense something that's different. And that's for everyone, that's for all of us. It's not only, oh, these people do it, or these people should do it only, or, no, it's for everyone. If you have a heart, then it's for you. It's a heart process. So we'll begin. Here's my hands instruments, because I know the instruments. I'm sorry to yourselves in the world. And for those of you who aren't aware of what this mantra is, mantra simply means to free the mind. Sorry, I meant to say dear souls in the world. It means to free the mind, the word mantra. There are souls out there in the world. And, for those of you who don't know what this mantra is, what it looks like, how it goes, in other words, to ourselves in the world, it's comprised of 3 names, Hare, Krishna, and Rama. And I'll say that one more time, Hare, Krishna, and Rama. Maybe one more time, Hare, Krishna, and Rama. And those 3 names are comprised into a 16-named sentence, which just goes, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I'll say it one more time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And this will be done in singing style, only because that is my personal preference. And the melody may change from time to time, so the best thing that we can do throughout this process together is simply stay as attentive as we can toward the sound of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And, for those of you who don't have working ears, all that matters at the end of the day is the heart. So put as much heart into this meditation as you can. That's my personal recommendation. Also kind of what I've heard, if not about similar things or directly about this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra meditation. Putting our heart into it as much as possible. It can be so easy to forget to do that, and that, as far as I'm aware, personally, that's the most important part of it, You have to just treat it like, like a mechanical thing, or like it's garbage, or it's something I just gotta get out of the way, so the real action can begin, in my day, or whatever. No, it's really the main meal, and it's for the heart. Yeah, it's a heart process. It's about the heart, as far as I'm aware personally. Yeah. Heart, all the way. Heart. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Na Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Give yourself, everyone, souls, which is the real self, from what I've read and also from what I understand personally, and from what I've experienced to a degree personally. Give your real self a pat on the back. I mean, you're giving the body a pat on the back, but, basically give yourself a pat on the back. All the while knowing that it's not the real self. It's just a bunch of stool wrapped in skin, basically. But we think it's so beautiful. Generally speaking, I'm not saying you specifically. Personally, in other words, to yourselves in the world, if that makes sense, to yourselves in the world. I apologize if it doesn't, do yourselves in the world. Please forgive me, dear souls in the world, but if you can't, dear souls in the world, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, dear souls in the world, Hare Krishna, dear souls in the world. Okay, dear souls in the world. Yeah, because, the reason why we should do that, in my personal opinion, giving this body a pat on the back, is because it's really a great victory to come into contact with this sound vibration in some way, shape, or form. Sorry, I meant to say, dear souls in the world, sound the vibration, dear souls in the world. To come in contact with this energy in some way, shape, or form is a great victory. And it leads to greatness only, especially on the inside.